Wherever you are. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ferguson City Council, the first one of the brand new year. Happy New Year to everyone. We are going to start with our opening ceremony. The meeting is now called to order. We will stand for a silent prayer, and after the silent prayer, we will do the pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilwoman Noah.
Here.
Councilwoman Griffin. Councilwoman Griffin. Councilwoman Burrow is not present. Councilwoman Robinette.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Here.
And Councilwoman Nelson.
Here. A quorum is present. The next item on the agenda is public comments.
Mayor, may I interrupt you for just a moment?
Okay,
I would like to amend the agenda, tonight's agenda. I would like to suspend the rule that and allow the public comments tonight's meeting without a previous sign up for our citizens, so that those concerned about last night's crash, which occurred after the deadline for submitting comments, can be heard in a timely manner. I would suggest that we maintain the 2-minute rule, and I would suggest that we go ahead and read the 2 that were sent in that we received today. And in the time frame of doing that, we open the chats and allow people to sign in. And then once those are read, then the signups would close, and we allow our citizens to have their 2 minutes to speak. And this just really reflects what we used to do when we were in person. We didn't require citizens to send in comments prior to a council meeting then. They just had to come in and sign in before the meeting. And so I would request that we amend the agenda and let our citizens be heard tonight.
that's a motion you're putting on the floor.
Yes, ma'am. Let me state it as a motion then. I make a motion that we suspend, that we amend tonight's agenda and suspend the current rule that requires citizens to send in their statements and their comments at 5 o'clock the day prior to a council meeting, in reflection of an accident that has upset a lot of citizens that happened around 9:30 last night. So it did not meet the deadline. So I make a motion that we open the comments.
Is there a second?
Second, Heather Robinette.
Are there any questions? Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Laquita?
Aye.
Councilwoman Griffin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So we amend the agenda to allow citizens to have a 2-minute to speak in the public comment session. Motion passes. At this time, we have 2 that submitted prior to amending the agenda. Clerk Pittman, who are the 2 residents who submitted their comment by yesterday, January the 10th, by 5 o'clock.
First, I have Alan Miller, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. Good evening, council. Just want to make a quick update about Proud's next event. People reaching out from Unity University will be hosting an online presentation titled critical race theory, what it really is and what it isn't really. The event will be held on the last Wednesday of the month, January 26th at 6 o'clock. And please note that this is a different date than my previous announcement. We are pleased to have author and founder of the Missouri Equity Education Partnership, Heather Fleming, as our presenter. Ms. Fleming recently appeared before the Missouri Legislature to provide expert testimony as lawmakers consider bills regulating the teaching of critical race theory and similar theories. Again, the courageous conversation will be held on Wednesday, January 26th at 6 o'clock. And for more information in the Zoom link, please see Proud's Facebook page or our website, www.proud-ferguson.org.
Thank you, Alan.
Okay, next I have Erica Brooks.
Good evening and greetings to the city of Ferguson and the residents as well. Happy New Year to all. I have attended 2 of the 4 American Rescue Plan Act forums, and my suggestions that I gave were as follows. Number 1, to create a safer surroundings for bus riders on Suburban Avenue in Dade. While waiting for bus number 79, you can install bus platforms which were originally in the plan for resurfacing Dade in 2019, as well as have bus shelters to protect them from the weather. Number 2, facade windows should be put on the derelict houses in Plaza Heights subdivision due to the high percentage of empty houses to attract buyers and create community appeal in our area. Number 3, more sidewalks need to be on Dade Avenue, as I said earlier, for the safety of walkers, because it's a lot of space in between the streets where people have to walk to get to bus stops, and also be able to just walk down Dade itself. And on Suburban, I was thinking that we should have sidewalks all the way down to Mueller, because it stops pretty much at Dade on Suburban. So if we could have sidewalks that continue all the way down to Mueller, that would be great, so that we can, have a safer walk down that area and also create a better curb appeal. Number 4, there should be an upgrade of lighting from regular bulbs to LED lighting, which are brighter and would allow the residents to see better at nighttime and possibly reduce criminal activity. And number 5, due to the fact that infrastructure on Dade is in the process of being replaced at this time, and will be resurfaced in the near future. Mueller and Plaza Avenue need to be resurfaced as well, because the streets, especially Mueller at the Graf and Mueller, is sinking daily, and it needs to be fixed, and we don't need to fall through the street, because if you go down it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And some of the things that, as far as that accident that happened on Elizabeth and Hereford, I was suggesting that there should be a roundabout in that area so that people can slow down at that roundabout. And then also when the different utility companies come on North Florissant, they have not upgraded or graded the streets back to the original surface, because we're dropping in potholes again in areas where they've done their work, which is in front of the church, the First Baptist Church, on Royal, right there at the corner, and then also right there at Airport and New Florissant. So if they could, if the city manager, if you could have the different utility companies to grade the street back to the original grade, so we don't have to drive in potholes, I would appreciate it. This is Erica M. Brooks, resident, community advocate, and former candidate for City Council in Ward 2. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. City Clerk Pittman, do we have anyone to sign up in the chat to speak for 2 minutes?
Yeah, it looks like I have 3. I'm sorry, it looks like I have 4 signed in to speak. The first one is going to be Nick Kassoff.
Good evening. I'm Nick Kassoff. I'm chairman of the Traffic Commission, and I live on Royal Avenue. Thanks to the council for opening up the comments tonight. I think this is a great way of letting the public speak out. I want to let the council know about a few things that are going on. First of all, obviously, we're all very concerned about the crash that happened in front of Blessed Teresa. And there's one person dead already, and two other people in very serious condition that may also ultimately not make it. So that just shines another spotlight on the terrible problems that we have with traffic in Ferguson. First of all, I want to invite the public to come to our traffic commission meetings where we're looking to gather data and come up with some practical solutions to this. We're going to have an open house next month where all the people can come in and talk about the problems that they have, so that we can be aware of what's going on in the community. We're also gathering data, or we're trying to gather data, I should say, because it takes special equipment and the cooperation of the authorities to do that. The city, I don't think, has the equipment, and so I'm working with St. Louis County right now, trying to get them to give us the data that we need in order to step up enforcement. Ultimately, though, the county's been very clear. There's not room for a roundabout of sufficient capacity at that corner by Blessed Teresa. And in talking with the North County engineer for county highways and traffic, he said the county's position is that we have to do enforcement. And what that means is that Ferguson is going to have to step up their game. We're going to have police officers out on that street pulling people over and writing tickets. Now, that may not be the only solution, but at this point, counties' studies, they tell us there's no problem on Elizabeth and that West Florissant's really the only problem. In order for us to counter that and demand that the county make changes, we've got to come up with data of our own. And part of that's going to be shooting radar, writing tickets, and doing enforcement. So again, please, anybody who's listening who has an interest, do come to the traffic commission meetings, because we're going to try to make changes and save lives down the road, and your input's important to us. Thanks again to the council for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Kassoff. Next.
Next, I have Stephen Robin.
Thank you, Council, for letting us speak this evening. I live quite near to this junction, and I've lived in this area for about 6 or 7 years now. In that time, we've had over 28 accidents along Hereford and this stretch of road. I speak from the experience of having had the former fire chief, unfortunately, die in my arms as he had a heart attack on Hereford, came off Hereford and went through and hit into my house and ended up almost in my living room. Over these last few months, though, particularly since the start of the pandemic, we've noticed, and my neighbors and I have noticed, an incredible increase in the traffic that is speeding along Hereford and Chambers and down Elizabeth. There's several things that are being discussed by the county. And some of the things Mr. Kassoff mentioned, some of the things he didn't. For example, the new roadwork that is going to be done on Elizabeth by the county. And that goes from I-270 down to this junction with Hereford and Chambers. When I spoke with the traffic engineer at the county earlier today and discussed with them the differences of types of roundabouts you could do, he did accept that you could possibly have an offset roundabout if some of the land from the front of the Ferguson Christian Church was taken on board and was made part of the project. It does need to have a method of safely slowing the traffic down. I do want to sort of close by saying a thank you, a big thank you to Chief Mccall and to Chief Hampton for the work that the first responders did last night. in bitterly, bitterly cold weather, and then getting back out there with the engineers today to restore the street lighting and traffic signals. I don't envy them having to do that. They're just having to do it too often. So I thank you for that, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Robin. Next person.
Next, I have Mildred Kleins.
Oh, good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I live in 3rd Ward on Castro, and I was literally right at that incident last night where the really, really bad crash happened. And I've been a resident for a long time, and I've seen a lot of results of accidents there as well. But what I will say is, I think that data can be gathered, and I'm sure it is being gathered to give to the county. And I'm assuming that the county is the one who mans or installs those traffic lights right there at Hereford and Elizabeth. One of the things that I would suggest is they can, could they possibly time those lights so that in a way that would slow down? Because it seems like to me a lot of the accidents happen when people are trying to make a left turn. Like a left turn. And because there's that hill that people are coming up from, when you're coming up Florissant up to Elizabeth, when you're making a left turn onto Elizabeth, you really can't see those cars until they're almost on you. So is there a way that the county can time that light so that maybe you could only maybe make a left turn only on a signal, left turn signal only? And then the other thing I would say is there's a left turn signal when you're making a left onto Elizabeth going north. But a lot of times when I look at that sign that says left turn only on left arrow, it's kind of dark there. And I was wondering, could the county put a light on that left turn signal? The instructions that say left turn only on arrow, if they can kind of highlight that or illuminate that so people can see it. Because I think some people don't see that because it's kind of dark. And then also when they're coming up from West Florissant, going towards Florissant Road, is there a way that they can just have only left turn only on arrow? And that way people won't be trying to yield making a turn. So to me, those are the type of things that I think would probably help, and to me, and also just gathering the statistics of all the different accidents that's been had and turn it into the county so I can look at it and because I don't know if like the gentleman before me, it's a small area to have a roundabout in the way the street is made. I don't know what's possible, but those were my suggestions. And thank you tonight for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Kleins.
Okay, next I have Aja Owens.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say hello. I am here representing the office of Congresswoman Cori Bush tonight. And I just wanted to introduce myself to everyone. If you all ever need anything from our office, definitely reach out, and I left my contact information in the chat box.
Thank you, Ms. Owens.
Octavia, I'm getting text messages from people who said they wanted to speak. Is the chat closed, or they said they tried to put?
The chat is not closed. No, ma'am. I have people lined up to speak here.
Okay, good. I was just concerned.
Okay. Next, I have Jerry Knoll.
Thank you, Octavia. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members, and Happy New Year to all. After the last council meeting on December 16th, I sent the following letter to my two council representatives, Councilwoman Burrow and Councilwoman Robinette, and also copied Mayor Jones and Attorney Carey. And I'd like to read that letter that I sent. So here it is. At Tuesday's council meeting, it was mentioned that a charter commission is being formed to review the city charter. Each council member was asked to appoint a person to this commission. Our current charter in Article 11, Section 11.12 outlines the ways in which amendments may be made to the charter. There are various ways that amendments can be proposed and submitted to the voters, but when a charter commission is used, the article states that, and here I'll quote our current charter, amendments to this charter may be framed and submitted to the voters by a commission in the manner provided by the state constitution and law for framing and submitting a complete new charter. The Missouri Constitution in Article 6, Section 19 gives the manner in which charter commissions are to be formed. And again, here's a quote, direct quote from our Constitution. Any city having more than 5,000 inhabitants or any other incorporated city as may be provided by law may frame and adopt a charter for its own government. The legislative body of the city may by ordinance submit to the voters the question, shall a commission be chosen to frame a charter? Section 19 then goes on to detail how members of a charter commission are chosen. I'm not a lawyer, but my reading of the state constitution is that charter commissions are not formed and members are not appointed by the city council. My reading is that voters of the city determine whether a charter commission should be formed and who the members of the commission will be. So I would appreciate it if the council would, that's the end of my letter that I sent last month. I would appreciate it if the council would elaborate during tonight's meeting on the plan to have a charter commission, and would also, if Attorney Carey would weigh in on what is the proper method for forming a charter commission and choosing its members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noel.
Okay, next I have Wendy Daniels.
Hello, good evening. I just wanted to make a comment and had a question about our traffic issues that have been going on. So as someone has said and have seen on social media, I'm a lifelong resident and have definitely noticed an escalation in the speeding and the recklessness over the past several years. And it really makes me sad. I'm a new grandmother now, and my daughter and son-in-law live in Ferguson. And, you know, frankly, she's afraid to, take the kids out in a stroller down the street because people are overtaking on Elizabeth Avenue and speeding. And it's not just the part by 270, it also is from down towards Paul Avenue as well. And then suburban. So despite what the county thinks, it's definitely an issue on Elizabeth. Suburban, Georgia, these streets where there's long stretches, it's just out of control. So if roundabouts aren't an option, I just was wondering about speed bumps, if that's something that could be considered or if it's cost prohibitive. I haven't really heard much discussion about that, so I'm curious. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels.
Okay, I don't have any others.
Okay. Thus in the public comment, we ask that staff will work on all the suggestions, and Mr. Noel, we will get an answer to you as soon as possible. The public comments are now closed. We move to the third item on the agenda, the manager's report. City Manager Eric Osterberg, do you have a report?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody had a good and safe holiday. I'll just jump right in. The first item I have for my manager's report today is just an update related to the Arpa public engagement campaign. So far, we have had We've had one in-person meeting and then two virtual Zoom meetings about ARPA. All three of those meetings were quite well attended. At least around 8 to 10 people have attended all three of those meetings. We're having our last ARPA meeting, public outreach meeting, tomorrow at 6 p.m. That will be held over Zoom due to concerns about Omicron and the spread of COVID, as well as just the flu season that we're going over right now. If you do not have that link, I encourage you to please visit movingfergusonforward.com. Again, that is movingfergusonforward.com. A couple other updates pertaining to ARPA. We will have sometime within the next 3 to 5 days a text message going out to all of our citizens with a 3-question kind of abbreviated survey about ARPA and how our citizens would like to use the funding. So we've made a post on our social media about that now. We just wanted to reach out to the community just to make sure everybody's well aware that we will be reaching out via text to all of our citizens, so as not to have anybody confused that that's a spam or a phishing attempt. That is a legitimate city survey. We have an update pertaining to from the federal government related to the ARPA. We are to make our first report to the federal government about spending that has already occurred or funds that have already been dedicated on April 30th. So I'm kind of learning about how to use the federal portal and then what steps we'll have to take to formulate that report. So I will be keeping City Council updated related to that. The next item I have on my manager's report tonight is just kind of a brief update about Proposition U, and that's the use tax proposition related to the Wayfair sales tax. I'm going to kind of go kind of rewind back just so the public as well as City Council knows kind of the history of this. In 2018, there was a Supreme Court decision called South Dakota versus Wayfair. The Supreme Court decided essentially that online retailers are to remit sales taxes to state and local governments because of the impact that they have on the infrastructure of those government entities, namely like transportation infrastructure, roads and streets and bridges and what have you. So with that, kind of going over the history of the past few years, most of the largest retailers that are nationwide, we're talking about like Amazon, Land's End, Walmart, Target, have already begun remitting those sales taxes to state governments. Now, there are pretty robust, this is kind of getting into kind of a technical explanation. Inside these massive Fortune 500 companies, they have very robust accounting departments. And what these accounting departments have determined is that the risk of them not remitting sales taxes is too great. So they've done all of their work. They've come up with these very complicated spreadsheets, which tells them the tax rates of not only all of the state governments, but also the municipalities and county governments. So we have a situation in Missouri right now where, like I said, these Fortune 500 online retailers are already remitting our sales tax that we assess on our citizens for, at a point of sale, like in a brick and mortar store, on online purchases. So to make it clear with an example, if you are buying like a set of toothbrushes off of Amazon, in addition to paying shipping right now, you are paying sales tax for Amazon for the city of Ferguson. That sales tax is currently being collected by the state and not remitted to the city. What the state legislature decided was that in order for cities to start collecting those sales taxes, that we would have to pass a ballot initiative for our citizens. So this April, the city of Ferguson won't be going out for a Prop U, but there's a number of our surrounding communities who will be. I have just a list here I'm going to read off of. We have Overland, St. Anne, Jennings, Florissant. Further down, we have Webster Groves. Further to the west, we have Town and Country, Baldwin, Manchester, and pretty much all of the municipalities further west from that. So my recommendation to City Council is that we should begin kind of a public educational campaign about Prop U, what it entails, and what the impact to our city is. I had the pleasure of speaking with Pat Kelly, who's the Missouri Municipal League Executive Director yesterday. We spent about an hour on the phone talking about Prop U and the immediate and then long-term financial impacts it would have to our city budget. Mr. Pat Kelly estimates that I need to rewind back real fast before I talk about these figures. The city of Ferguson is part of a sales tax pool with the county, in addition to having our own point of sales tax. So there's about, no, this is not precise, there's about a 1 cent sales tax for the county pool and then a 1 cent sales tax for our point of sales tax. So the county, St. Louis County, is also going to ballot this April for Prop U. If that successfully passes, Mr. Kelly says that we should expect our revenues to grow by $1 million to $1.5 million annually, just in the growth in what we receive from the county's sales tax pool. In addition to that, we don't have kind of a way to make that number, but for the other portion of the sales tax, the R side, our point of sales tax, we're likely going to see at minimum between $500,000 and $1 million in revenue growth from that as well, if our citizens, in addition to the county, were also to pass that ballot initiative. So I think that we're in a really good place as a city to kind of sit back, watch how the election goes in April of this year with our surrounding communities as well as the county, see what the most successful campaigns looked like, and kind of assess it based off of that. You know, kind of scope out what are cities doing to kind of educate citizens about this, because again, the most important thing about this is that it's not a ballot initiative that initiates a new tax. It's a ballot initiative that allows the city to collect the tax that's already being assessed and collected by the state. I'm going to go ahead and pause there before I continue my manager's report to see if City Council had any questions.
I don't have a question, Mr. Osterberg, but I do have a statement. I do have a comment.
Okay.
Okay. So just a suggestion. I mean, in addition, I completely agree with the educational piece. That's going to be important. I was just thinking as you were talking, if we could get some yard signs or some signs that say yes on Prop U, vote yes on Prop U. We see those in other places. And not only is the education piece important, like we don't just want to spoon feed it to our community. We want to be able to explain it to them, but we also want to have a reminder to them that this is something that we can benefit from as a city overall. And so just as a reminder or something like that.
So Council Griffin, it's a great idea. However, the city of Ferguson itself cannot be involved in doing a formal campaign asking our citizens to vote yes. What we are able to provide by state law is we can say that, you know, our projections are, if this were to pass, the revenue would be this. Here's some examples of some things we can fund with this money. But the second that it becomes, we think our citizens should vote yes. That's where we have to, as a city. So like in my capacity, we can't be funding out of our budget a campaign like that. That being said, that doesn't preclude any of council from being out in the public and engaging the public, or, you know, even organizing a campaign with the signs you're saying. It just, the city itself can't be involved in that.
I'm glad you said it like that. That explains. So we can actually support and encourage. We just can't do it as a city overall. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilwoman Lipka?
Yes, so you're saying sit back and watch what happens in April. Why wouldn't we put it on our ballot in April? Are we past our deadline?
Yeah, so effectively for us to get it onto the ballot, we would have to hold 2 special sessions. And my concern also would be the time that for campaigning and for the city to produce on our side kind of educational info, and then for people on the outside, you all, city council, and the community, to kind of organize around the idea. It's my understanding that this will be either the 3rd or 4th time that the city has gone to ballot. And one of the things that in the past, it's my understanding that last time that we put it on the ballot, 3 months ahead of an election, we were having materials reach people for education or campaign things after the vote had already occurred. So I just wanted to make sure that we had maximum time for success and just position the city as best as possible.
So when do you propose putting it on the ballot?
I would say that I think a good a good date to aim for to have like a first reading of an ordinance, I would think would be April. Because the last meeting in April, because that gives us time to at least for staff internally to track how these campaigns are going, see what works the most effectively as far as like the city side, and then council looking at how council campaigns and public engagement works on the other side, and then we would have ample opportunity throughout the summer and fall leading up to August to.
So you're looking,
yeah.
so you'd be looking at August.
Yes, and Octavia, if I'm correct, I think the general election is the August 2nd.
It is.
Okay, yeah, so
Now,
the date would be
We're
August.
required to have our documentation in May. You're correct.
Okay,
So the other thing I will say, when we've done this before, Octavia, I know you and I pulled it up. I think the last time this came about, you helped me find it and we pulled it up and I've kept it since, but we do have an educational piece. We do have a digital piece that is already there and explains how this process works. It may, of course, will have to be updated because each time we try to do this, it has a new name. Now it's called Proposition U. So it would have to be updated. But, I'm already getting text messages from people saying they don't want another tax. And again, I want to reiterate to the people who are listening, you are already paying this. When you do an online purchase, you are already paying this. It is not an additional tax on you. This is what's happening when you go and shop with your Amazon and your OfferUp and your Wayfair or, any of those. Anytime you buy anything online, you are now paying a sales tax. What we're saying is you're already paying it. The state of Missouri is collecting it. We are allowed to have part of it, but we're not getting it because we haven't approved it as a city. So the only way for the city of Ferguson to reap the rewards of the tax and let it come back into your community, let it come back into service for you, a tax you're already paying, this is why we would have to pass this bill. So it's already out there and we just want to make sure your sales tax dollars are benefiting your community.
So,
Council, go ahead.
Councilwoman Lipka, did you have a question for me or because it was?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, I was going to ask you, can we get that educational piece pulled up again and get that over to Eric, or I'd be happy to work with you on that, on getting it updated.
so on that note,
the Missouri Municipal League has all updated education. And so the only thing we would have to do is just put a union bug on it. So it's already out there.
Well, I know that, Mayor. I'm just saying, and in addition to that, we already have one too. The city of Ferguson already has it as well.
Okay, Councilwoman Robinette, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question, Eric, if you know, or maybe Apollo, if you know. So if Missouri's collecting these taxes and a community doesn't go through and get those taxes from a ballot issue, what is Missouri doing with those collected taxes, or is that known?
I am so glad you asked that. So again, I kind of rewinding back to the beginning of kind of talking about the history of Wayfair. Instead of it being like Missouri is going to Amazon and Wayfair and Target and saying, you shall remit all municipal, county and state taxes to us, it's more that it's an issue of federalism where the Supreme Court of the United States of America ordered through their the case Wayfair versus South Dakota that all online retailers begin remitting the sales tax. So essentially what that means is that the Amazons, the Wayfair, the large Fortune 500, these large companies are just starting to remit it to the state. The state is just saying, well, if we're receiving all of this money, but cities, if you want it, you're going to have to go pass a ballot initiative. And that was a legislative decision. I think that's really interesting given that we're like a home rule charter city in the state of Missouri. It's a little bit questionable, kind of, it piques my interest as well. So, but that's kind of what's been happening.
Thank you.
Attorney Apollo, did you want to say something?
Not necessarily. Did somebody have a direct question for me?
Okay. If not, Councilwoman Griffin, and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just gonna say, if there's anyone who is confused about Prop U and is still thinking, us putting it on the ballot as a city would potentially increase taxes, please feel free to contact the city, contact any of your council members so that we can explain it to you and go through it and be able to provide any kind of answers to any of the questions that you have, because this is important for us. Mr. Osterberg just got through mentioning to us 1 million to 1.2 million from the sales tax pool, and that's from St. Louis County, and then 500,000 to $1 million for the point of sale. So that if we do put it on the ballot, if we do pass it, then that's what we can be looking to receive, and that's how it can benefit us as a city. And so I just think it's important. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out, please.
It could buy a lot of speed bumps.
Okay.
Mayor, I do have a question for the city manager on the topic prior to this conversation.
Eric, do you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the ARPA, going back to the ARPA meetings and everything else, I remember, we read a lot of emails, but I do remember an email coming out recently saying that there were some new additional regulations that have come out on the ARPA funds. And my question to you is, I think you sent the email saying you were looking it over.
I did.
So can you enlighten us in terms of, did you find anything? Are we still in line with what they're requiring?
Yes, so reviewing the rules, the majority of the rule changes that happened. So let me rewind back to what Councilor Lipka is referring to is that when ARPA funding was announced and then issued to cities, the Treasury Department released something called the interim final rule, meaning it was the final rule subject to change. Last week, the federal government came out with a final rule, still with an asterisk, things are subject to change, but they believe that this will be most of the changes were reflected in this most recent rule. Most of what changed was not the narrative about, for example, kind of the three categories that I've been presenting to all of the groups in the meetings. Most of what it was a kind of a more technical update about how we can account for revenue lost. I'm still working on that. I think that it might actually be better for us the way that they shifted to calculating revenue cost. For example, with our event space over at our community center, the pandemic obviously hit that and impacted the amount of in-person events we have. We might be better able to account for that and ask for revenue back or use some of that money to restore those revenues with the revenue change. But beyond that, it's pretty much similar, the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilwoman Burrow.
Thank you. Eric, what I would like to happen is when those updates become available, that the city council receive them as well. Some of us have the business acumen to digest what those updates pertain to and can be useful in conversations when we're trying to decide is this the best way to go? So I'd appreciate as they become available to you, if you would send them to the whole council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Griffin, and we're going to move on.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one more question for Mr. Osterberg. Mr. Osterberg, you mentioned in 3 to 5 days, it was going to be a text message reaching out to all the residents. And I just wanted to know, because I didn't know there was some master phone number list that we had. Are you basing it off of like occupancy permits? Are you basing it off of like numbers that you've acquired over the last couple of months? Like, I'm just wondering where this list is coming from.
Yeah, so the city is working with a marketing firm, or we're working with a firm that does public outreach for surveys that can get marketing firm data. So like when people are subscribing to, like a Kohl's membership or things like that, sometimes it'll ask for their cell phone number. So we've purchased access to a bank through this third party, who will then just be using a phone bank from that to send out a message, like just a text link to the survey. So we're anticipating that will go out to about 5,000 people.
I already got one.
Oh, you did already? Well, that's great. That's good to know.
Okay, thank you.
I had not heard that people had started receiving them, so that's great news.
Okay, Councilwoman Burrow, you still have your hand up?
Yes, Eric, I was wanting to know, is that possible? That was a question for you, and that's something that you would be willing to do.
What question?
The question is, when you get updates such as the one you got, and you were divine what was different, and I would like to see those for myself. And so I'm asking, would you send those?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I could send those.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Eric, next.
Yeah, so moving on, we're going to shift to our COVID update from Chief Hampton.
Eric, Council, always a pleasure. I hope everyone had a nice, safe holiday. With the holiday seasons come some higher rates of COVID, unfortunately. Right now, we're at the highest rate of COVID since the pandemic started. There's been a record number of COVID-19 cases in area hospitals. Currently, with our big 4 hospitals, we're about 1,200 COVID patients. You know, testing is one of the biggest ways to protect yourself and your family. We also need to remember that we need to wear our mask and stay away from big crowds, maintain your social distancing, washing your hands. And if you wear a mask that's reusable, make sure we're washing that. Being vaccinated, getting your booster shots is another way of protecting yourself and your family. North County is still the lowest vaccination rates and continues to be the hardest hit areas for COVID. Testing sites are opening up through the county. Just recently, the North County Recreational Complex on Redmond Road, it has opened, and also obviously the Health Department of Berkeley. Now, you have something to be careful and just a reminder for you is that these are by appointment only for these testing. To get registered, you go to revivestl.com. We have that on our website, and if not, I'll make sure that's there by tomorrow morning. We are also hoping to have a site here in Ferguson within the next week or 2. Vaccinations eligibility is anyone from 5 years of age and up, and booster eligibility is anyone 12 years and up. Most locations that offer the vaccinations are walk-in and walk-ups, but to be safe, try to make an appointment, you know, like it's Walmart, Sam's, and CVS, even your health department as well. So COVID numbers, obviously they're not going to be very accurate right now. And the reason being is there's a lot of home tests being out there, and those home tests, people are not obviously registering it to the county. But what I do have number wise is in 63135, there is approximately 800 new cases. In 63136, we have about 1450 to 1500 new cases. Those are our zip codes that I'm talking about. Also, there's a vaccination and testing site in Delwood, city of Delwood, and that started January 3rd, and it's open Monday through a.m. to 4 p.m. Our numbers are much higher than what I was told, so just remember all these home tests, our numbers are more inflated than they actually are. Some of the great resources for COVID is still sclcorona.com. We will also have a link to that on our webpage. Just as a reminder, we'll get through this. That's all I have right now currently.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, so I also wanted to say there is a testing site down on West Florissant. It's in Floridale Hills. So you go down, like you go through Jennings or you're in that area. And it's at a beauty supply parking lot. It's next to a beauty supply place. And they did great work. We went there and got tested. My husband and I, when you sit in your car, you go to the back parking lot, they come, they give you the information, you fill out all the information on your smartphone, and then they tell you when to move into the next parking lot, and then everybody moves in the next parking lot. They come to your window, do the nasal swab, and then they send you an email within 24 hours. We actually got it sooner than that. And then we also did the Delwood location, which is a little bit different. You go in, you sign in, they take your phone number, tell you to go home, they'll call you when they're ready. And then you come back in and you wait a little bit. They do the swab, you go and sit off to another area and you get your results within 30 minutes. So the Delwood one is really nice as well. And, you know, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you EMTs and firefighters and police officers and everything else. But I also want to say a big thank you to the people who are working these testing sites. I mean, they're in those people's face all day long. So that's a big thank you to them. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that there was a news story this evening on NBC, and they were saying that the difference, for me, I never knew, but the difference between the K95 mask and the N95 is actually that the N95 has two straps that goes around your head, and the other, well, one of them, now I'm going to get it wrong, I'm not trusting myself, but one has two straps that goes around your head, the other one goes around your ears. That's the difference. They also said that those are the masks that they recommend with the Delta variant and the Omicron variant, because you need to really suction off your face. They're saying that the blue ones, the medical ones, are okay, but they're not the best. Cloth ones are not good. They're with these other two variants, you really need to be looking at the N95 and the K95. And there's a lot of companies out there that are putting out fake ones. So when you're looking for an authentic one on the N95, and Chief Hampton, you can help me with this. It's an NO number. It says 3M, and it has like an NO number on the N95 masks, and they had a name for it. Do you know what that is?
Sorry, I currently don't.
Okay, so it's on the mask itself. It'll have an N and an O and then a number. And that's an authentic N95 mask. It's not a fake. So I just wanted to share that with information with people who are listening.
Councilwoman Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief Hampton, I just have a quick question for you. You mentioned the new cases. Are those numbers based off of the last time that you did the report up until today?
Yes, ma'am. In the last 2 weeks.
Okay, within the last 2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
And also just to let everybody know, there's two different kinds of tests. Is your fast test, and then the PCR test. Your PCR test is also going to be testing for the flu, and your A and B, and then also RSD besides COVID. So those test results come back a little bit later than obviously the rapid test. We test Ferguson employees at the firehouse, and that's all we have. Anybody have any questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Hampton. Up next, we have our community policing update from Chief Mccall.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council, community, and staff, and Happy New Year to everyone. As we know, with our staffing concerns, and it's like was mentioned with the pandemic, it's been a trying 2021. The thing that I did do was try to do a comparison when it comes to data for 2020 and 2021 to give people a general idea as far as where we've improved at as far as numbers and where we still need to do some work at. But I do want to stress the point that 2021 was a very trying year for us. I'll start with homicides. As you're well aware, we had a real uptick in homicides. In 2020, we had 5, and in 2021, we had 12. But I will say, since taking over in July of 2021, we have 100% clearance rate. on these homicides.
What
Where
does that mean?
The person has either been arrested or identified.
Thanks.
Mhm. As far as our incidents for 2020, we had 24,022. And for 2021, we had 19,947, which was a decrease of 16.97%. Our burglaries in 2020, we had a total of 215, and we had 151 burglaries in 2021, which was a decrease of 29.77%. Our assaults in 2020, we had 123. And in 2021, we had 118, which is down 3.18%. Domestic violence, which has always been a concern. In 2020, we had 212 incidents, and in 2021, we had 196 incidents, which was down 7.55%. Our disturbances between the 2 years did not change. Both years, we've had a total of 1,784 disturbances. Our auto thefts for 2020 was 269, and for 2021, it was 152, which was down 26.77%. I know a major concern for everyone is our traffic enforcement. And in 2020, we had 709 actual traffic stops. And in 2021, we had 538, which was a decrease of 24.12%. But I will also say, as far as failure to yield, which is individuals that will not stop when you try to stop them, we had 13 in 2020 and 31 in 2021, which is a 138.46% increase with failure to yields. Auto accidents with injury in 2020, we had 185. And in 2021, we had 167, which is down 9.72%. Accidents without injuries, we went up a little bit to 917 in 2020 and 944 in 2021, which is up 2.94%. Total accidents in the city of Ferguson was up 0.82%, 1,102 in 2020 and 1,111 in 2021. This next thing I want to touch on deals with shots fired. And I want to remind everyone that with the software that we do have, how ShotSpotter plays a role in this. Shots fired in 2020, which we didn't have it activated, was 1,122. Shots fired in 2021, which is just people calling in, was 749, which is down 33.24%. But with ShotSpotter, it was 1,668, which was up 48.66%. Basically, it's saying with the general areas that we have covered, it's making us aware of ShotSpotters, of shots fired in certain areas where, say, people might not be calling or definitely are not calling. One thing I also wanted to check, I was curious. So during New Year's Eve, we have just a ton of, volleys of rounds being fired. So I wanted to check between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. During the periods of 2020 and 2021. And this also is inclusive of ShotSpotter activations. In 2020, we had 52. And in 2021, we had a total of 39, which was down 25%. The police department continues, well, first off, when I'm looking at the numbers and things like that, I know there are a lot of things that we're still addressing, but at the same time, I just want to say to the staff, as far as their commitment, and right now, everybody at the PD is multitasking, trying to take care of things, being more visible in hot areas and reference with our burglaries and stealings and things like that. And I think that has been effective. We are still working on different tools and options in reference with the speeding throughout the city. I'm well aware of that. Even now to this day, when I come into work, I make my business to go down Washington, Elizabeth every day, just to get a view myself. I saw county work on the pole this morning over there. So it's not going on deaf ears. We are, out there doing, what we can do. In reference with our hiring, right now, we have one officer who was already post-certified. He's completed a psychological. and everything. So we hopefully will, and we're trying to finish up his background. Hopefully before the end of this month, we will be bringing this officer on. We just had an initial interview with the individual that we're going to try to send to the police academy. We're going to be setting up the citizen panel for, this person. We have another individual who's completed their interview, and we're reviewing the results of that interview to see about them going before the citizen panel also. They would also be going into the police academy. And just so you know, we have 2 classes coming up. One is in April and one is in June. So we're going to try to get bodies in both of those classes. We have another post-certified person that's in background now. And we have a new dispatcher starting on the 18th. But regrettably, because we're about, we need people, and I'm well aware of that. But at the same time, we can't just settle for anyone. We still have to maintain a level of quality. And to be totally honest with you, I believe in the last month or so, we probably eliminated about 5 people out of our process, because they just didn't, be it if it was background, be it if it was psychic bio polygraph and things of that sort, but they just didn't, meet the level that we're trying to maintain and that we're going to keep here for the city of Ferguson. As I touch base on the academy. When it comes also, we're still looking at options. I know the council, I know that you're aware with the CIP, with the license plate readers and things of that sort, but just so the community knows that we're looking outside of the box with license plate readers, with our anti-pursuit type thing, where we can attach an item to the vehicle, which we can computer-wise or with the software be able to know where the vehicle is and just go tow it, as opposed to getting into a bunch of pursuits and things like that. We're also looking at different signage and our speed trailers and different things like that. And also, I know when I was at my last department, we had a partnership with neighboring communities where we cross-deputized and had traffic details where we worked together by getting a overtime reimbursement grant. So we can cross each other's boundaries just for the sole purpose of writing citations, but at the same time, those officers were deputized so they could testify at our court. So it wasn't that, so in other words, if we had an officer doing this detail from another agency and they write 20 tickets and it goes to trial, then they would be deputized so they could testify in our court, and fines or whatever could be assessed legally and binding. So like I said, I'm looking at a lot of different options in reference to see how we can combat what I've seen as a change in culture, basically. And we're seeing less and less of a regard for human life and human property. And, but the fact of it is that that's something that we as a police department have to deal with, and we're prepared to do so. Are there any questions?
Councilwoman Lipka.
I know, here I am. First of all, Frank, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. Don't take it personally. I appreciate what you're going through. And that's what the first thing I want to ask is, where are we with staffing? I mean, you just got done saying, if I understand what you just got done saying, we have 2 possible going into the police academy. Mm-hmm. We have 2 possible post-certified. One is further along than the other one, but there's 2. And we have 1 dispatch. So we're looking at a total of 5 hires if they all go through. The police academy won't happen. So that's a good thing, but it doesn't help us right this minute. The post-certified, we don't have to put them through a police academy. Once they're hired, they can go straight to the street, correct?
Right. Well, they'll go through our field training, but yeah, they can go to the street.
Okay, so and then I also want to welcome Officer Stelzer, I think is her name. Mm-hmm. And so we just got her. So my question to you is, how many officers are actually patrolling, not training, not riding with others, actually patrolling?
Right now, we have 2 officers that are in training. The other officers are patrolling. Okay.
And then the other questions I have, the shot spotter, we've talked about this before. I think we're at the end of our free period. So can you enlighten us on what's going on now with the shot spotter program?
I've had meetings with ShotSpotter and Conversation. And right now we're looking for grant funding, and they have agreed at this point to keep us active pending if we can find grant funding. So we're going to probably be getting back together in March to see where we are.
Okay. And then all the data that you just shared with all of us comparing 2020 to 2021, I couldn't write it as fast as you could say it. Okay. So can you send us a report on that tomorrow? Just shoot us that. And then the other thing, let's see. You mentioned New Year's Eve. And you said that there was from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. in 2020, 52, and 2021, 39. Are we talking 5,200 and 3,900? Because that's what I heard.
No, no, we're talking about the actual number of 52 and where's it at? Well, we're not talking hundreds, no. But you have to remember that was just during a certain period. That's not for the entire day.
Okay, so 52 period, nothing else. That's
right. Well, between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2:59 a.m., there was 52 rounds fired in 2020. Now that's based on people calling in because ShotSpotter was not activated then. Now in 2021, between 10 p.m. and 2:59 a.m., there were 39 shots fired, and that's inclusive of what was added by ShotSpotter.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to respectfully disagree. I don't think that data could possibly be right because I literally heard more than that. I've heard no less than 5 or 6 scenarios where citizens woke up the next day and they had bullet holes through their roof. They had bullet holes through their awnings. We heard on the news kids got hurt sitting in their own home with bullets going through the house. So that I have a real concern with.
Well, you have to remember this also is that our ShotSpotter does not cover the entire city.
You're right. So that is taking into consideration only the radius of the ShotSpotter itself, not the whole city. Because I literally, Chief, I went outside in my backyard and screamed across the woods to whoever was shooting and told them to cut it out. And they cursed me out, but then they stopped shooting. So, I mean, I literally did that. But I will say that, did we make any arrests on New Year's Eve for ridiculous gunfire?
Not that I recall off the top of my head. I can research that, but I don't recall any arrests on New Year's Eve.
Well, I don't know how to do it, and I know it's a very high mountain to climb, but I would love for people to understand that this next year they're going to get arrested because people can't even go outside and bang pots and pans for fear of a bullet hitting them, and that's what you used to do. Now, the other thing I want to get to is we were talking about the crime. I have some real concerns. We had this December 20th. The lady coming down Ferguson Avenue and the car pulled in front of her, stopped and started shooting at her. That concerns me. We've had a lot of daytime burglaries. I've had my house burglarized. I went to a pawn shop in Florissant and actually found all the jewelry that had been stolen from my mother's home. And when I told that to some of the people who had their homes recently burglarized, they went to that pawn shop. They found their things there. And luckily the owner had the person on camera. So luckily an arrest was made. So I'm glad I was able to share that information with those victims and they were able to get their goods back. But we've also had, we're having situations with Positive Vibes, one of our beloved businesses that does dog grooming, and they are having constant vandalism, constant threats, constant brandishing of weapons in the owners' faces to the point where the owners are concerned, very concerned. And then right next door to them is Little Smarties, which is a learning daycare. It's been there forever. I spoke with the owner there. She's had constant vandalism. She's had people break in her car, her van, her daycare van, set it on fire, do all this other stuff. And then they actually set the building on fire at 4:00 in the afternoon with kids in there just last week. So, we've got the arson going on. And the thing that I'm concerned about is these owners are not feeling like they're getting an urgent response from our police department. And they're they're living in fear more and more. And so I'm very concerned in regards to, I understand there's two sides to every story. So I would like, I've told them that the police, you guys are you're trying to get there. But my concern is there's a lack of empathy that I'm noticing in all of these stories that I'm hearing from the victims, business owners and homeowners. And I think we need to really work on that. I realize that may be asking a lot, but we have got to work on the empathy. We've got to work on the community relation. And we've got to, even if we can't get there, even if we have to say, look, I can't return your call immediately, maybe send an email or send something that says, I hear you, I see you, I acknowledge you. Here's when I will reach out and have a conversation with you, and set a phone call appointment or something. But just letting these people know that they've been acknowledged and they've been validated and they are valuable to this community would go a long, long way. And that's, we need good policing, we need safe policing, and we need business owners that don't feel afraid to go into their own buildings. And so that's one of my biggest concerns. It's not really a question, but I guess I do have a question. How can we improve that? What in your leadership, can you do to help us improve that? Because these people do not feel safe right now.
Well, coincidentally that you mentioned as far as the empathy aspect, I've already had a citizen reach out to the owners of the Pets place, and we're supposed to be getting together hopefully next week.
Well, that's something I had been asking our city manager. The owners have wanted to sit down and have a meeting with you, and I asked to facilitate it. I know Nick Kassoff has asked to facilitate it. We need to get this facilitated because we can't afford to lose businesses.
Yeah, and I think that myself and the actual victims discussing what their concerns are, because there's a lot of things that go on behind the scene that they might not even be aware of. The same when you mentioned the burglary, with the jewelry. The thing that happened was one of my detectives actually talked to some victims in our lobby the very same day that it was brought to my attention. And based on information, he got the suspect information. And if I'm not mistaken, the suspect was from the general area because he was arrested by the Calvin Park Police Department.
Oh,
and,
yeah. So
and he had multiple warrants through St. Louis County Court for burglary. So it's the point we are doing things to take care of people's needs. I don't believe in having the victim have to solve their own cases. But I do concur. I do concur that communication is the key, and that is why I reached out to someone who's familiar with them for the victims and I to get together and have conversation.
Well, I appreciate that because, like I said, all of these businesses matter to our community, and as you said, and you stated it better than I did, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes of the police, so I'm not going to villainize our police department by any sense. But I will say, speaking up for the citizens, that there is a level of empathy and a level of validation that we need to start striving for, because these people deserve that. And in regards to some of the accidents too, I'm not going to beat that horse because it's already been beaten. But I will say that, since January 4th, we've had 3 very serious accidents on Hereford. We had on December 30th, the car that wrapped itself around a pole and took out another pole in Suburban. And then we had the car that was left sitting in the area, the triangle area over there by Emos for days on end until somebody wrote "Welcome to Ferguson" on it. So, these are all things that they start adding up, and our citizens are getting fed up. I'm done. Thank you.
Chief Hampton.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Miss Councilwoman Lipka, on Smarty's fire, no one was at the time of the fire. I'm
sorry, what? You broke
up. No
up.
one was in the building at the fire with at the little Smarties.
Well, that's good enough, because that's not what I was told. I was told the kids were in there and that they had to get out.
No one was in the building at the time. I just want to. Okay.
Well, that's a clarification that's very important, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilwoman Noor, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did, but I appreciate Chief Hampton his response. I just wanted to verify that. And he says that no one was in the building. So thank you for that.
Councilwoman Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Chief Mccall, I had a question, and it was really, it was pertaining to some of the public comments, but it definitely did tie in with your report. It was mentioned that St. Louis County had come out and run some analysis and did not have any data about what was happening along Chambers Road. And the suggestion at the time from this particular commenter was, I think that was Mr. Kassoff, was to have someone parked there and writing tickets and enforcing. And so if I also heard you mention some numbers here that were really important. And to me, what I saw based off of the numbers that you provided was that it was more so a thing of people fleeing the scene versus the officers not stopping because someone was speeding. That was just based off of the numbers that you were providing. And so in looking at all of that, because what I definitely don't want to get is in the routine of us sitting there waiting on someone to do something so that we can have a reason to pull them over, because that goes into an area that we just don't want to ever fall back into under any means whatsoever. But in trying to, and definitely understanding the concern, because one thing I agree with, like, that particular area, Elizabeth and Chambers, has had so many different accidents. To me, it's just amazing that St. Louis County wouldn't find any data to show that there is an actual need there. And so in thinking about and listening to the comments, I was just thinking about, say if you have a commercial property where, somebody's always getting shot up there in the parking lot and you have so many calls per service. I know there is protocol where after so many calls per service, you can get, whether it's the city or the county involved, and then they can go through a process with that particular commercial area. Wouldn't that be something that we could utilize as data, like the calls per service simply on the accidents that have happened at that intersection? Like one of the public commenters said, I believe that was, I don't want to get him wrong, I think that was Mr. Robin that mentioned how long he had been here and how long, and just within that amount of time, how many accidents had happened in that area. Can't we use the calls per service with accidents and push something as a city to St. Louis County saying, hey, and it's not just Chambers, it is also West Florissant, and we know that for a fact. But is there something that we can push to them to say, hey, I actually did like the idea that Miss Mildred pushed forward about the multiple stops. It made me think about when you're driving down Kings Highway on your way to Barnes Jewish, because they anticipate the different ambulances and things coming through, and they also anticipate the amount of traffic. They set the lights up in a way to where they're stopping every time they get through to allow people to be able to come in onto the main road to get back and forth. And it helps slow down traffic and prevents accidents in specific areas when there's high traffic like that. Like, can we use the calls per service specifically to be able to push for some type of action from St. Louis County? These are their streets.
We could share the information. Matter of fact, every year, which we've been doing, we do a traffic report, like we just, which has been disseminated for 2020. And it showed the highest rate of accidents being on pretty much in the West Florissant area, and things like that. And I can forward a copy of that. The thing of it is that the only thing when it comes to, I'll put it like this. A few years ago at my other department, county did a count, and that data should be out there because they, over by Airport School in Berkeley, they did a count before that school closed to see how much traffic was because people had been being struck by vehicles crossing the street. But because it's a county road, they did the count on that. So it's not that the county can't get the data. You know, it's the point of them actually wanting to do it. You know, but as people, I can try to talk to some people in St. Louis County. I have no problem with that.
Okay, Eric, you wanted to share something?
No, Fran had clarified it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else so we can move on? Okay, City Manager, you have anything else to add to your report?
No, that concludes my report.
Okay, thus we are closing the City Manager's report. At this time, we will move to the consent agenda, which is the City Council meeting minutes, the regular meeting minutes for December the 14th, 2021. Are there any corrections? Hear none, I am requesting a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Attorney Burrows, second.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the regular meeting minutes for December the 14th, 2021 has been approved. We move to our board commission meeting minutes. The CRB, their meeting minutes are September the 13th, 2021, October the 4th, 2021, and November the 1st, 2021. Are there any corrections? If none, I request a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Attorney Burrows, so moved.
Mayor, if I just may interrupt you for just a second. We're actually not approving them, we're only accepting them.
Okay. Okay. So we are going to accept the boards and commission meeting minutes. They are accepted. Thank you. We move to our proclamations. We have 2 proclamations for tonight. The first one is a proclamation for the school district, whereas all children in Ferguson should have access to the highest quality of education possible. And whereas Ferguson recognizes the important role that an effective education plays in preparing all students in Ferguson to be successful adults, and whereas quality education is critically important for the economic vitality of Ferguson, and whereas Ferguson is home to a multitude of high quality public and non-public schools from which parents can choose for their children, in addition to families who educate their children in the home. And whereas educational variety not only helps to diversify our economy, but also enhances the vibrancy of our community. And whereas Ferguson has many high quality teaching professionals in all types of school settings who are committed to educating our children. And whereas School Choice Week is celebrated across the country by millions of students, parents, educators, schools, and organizations to raise awareness of the need for effective educational options. Now, therefore, I, Ella Jones, do hereby recognize January the 23rd, through the 29th, 2022 as Ferguson School Choice Week. And I call this observance to the attention of all our residents. The second proclamation is a proclamation congratulating Carlos D. Lathan on being selected to serve as the Greater North County Chamber of Commerce Chair of the Board. Whereas Carlos D. Layton relocated in Ferguson, Missouri in 2002 from Southern Illinois and his hometown of Unity. And whereas he has over 30 years experience in the healthcare industry, working with companies such as SDC, Community Action Agency, River to River CAS, Valley Senior Living, Hidden Lake, Century Park, Prion Care, and Hope Hospice, to name just a few. Whereas he is an active member of the Mercy Seat Baptist Church, a vice chair for the Mercy Seat Apartment Board of Directors, as well as a member of the North County Senior Resource Team. And whereas he is a longtime member of the Greater North County Chamber of Commerce, he is a part of Leaders Group 2. He has served as the secretary and is currently the vice chairman for the board of directors. He is also the very proud recipient of the Kathy Bellman 2021 Volunteer of the Year Award. And whereas with unity instilled in him, he gets the most enjoyment for lifting the spirits of others by doing all the good he can, by all the means he can, in all the places he can. Now, therefore, I, Ella Jones, Mayor of the City of Ferguson, Missouri, on behalf of the Ferguson City Council, hereby congratulate Carlos D. Lathan on being selected to serve as the Greater North County Chamber of Commerce Chair of the Board. Congratulations. Our next order of business is resolutions. We have resolution number 2022-01. Without objections, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-01. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract between the city of Ferguson and New Concept Construction to repair the retaining walls at 820 Hutton Place and January Avenue.
City Manager Osterberg, could you please explain?
Yes, we have some retaining walls that have lost their integrity. January Wabash, and then at a property located at 820 Hutton. I'm going to give the floor to Public Works Director Don Boyce for more information.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Happy New Year to everyone. In the budget prior to this, it was approved that in the budget that we could repair the citizens' retaining walls at their home. The damages caused from those to those particular retaining walls are at fault to the city. So we'd like to take care of those before it becomes a bigger issue.
Thank you. At this time, I'm requesting a motion and a second for approval.
So moved, Frank Griffin.
Second, Heather Robinette.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Noah. Aye. Councilwoman Griffin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Aye.
Councilwoman Jones. I'm sorry, Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson.
I'm sorry, aye.
Resolution number 2022-01 passes. Resolution number 2022-02. Without objections, we're introduced with council member present. Hear none, Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-02. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with New Concept Construction for road repairs on North Clay Avenue.
City manager, could you please explain?
Yeah, I'll give the floor to Public Works Director Don Boyce.
Again, good evening, everyone, Mayor, Council. North Clay has been a street that in our community that has some major damages to the infrastructure. It's actually has been causing damages to citizens' cars. It's one of the most complained about streets to Public Works this past summer and even going into the winter. So again, it's been budgeted to repair some of our streets in our city. So we'd like to go ahead and repair that street as soon as possible, have it repaved.
Okay, I am requesting a motion and a second.
I have my hand up. Can I ask a question?
Okay, ask a question.
Okay. We have, Mr. Boyce, we have 2 North Clays. So are we talking about both of them, or are we or just one of them?
Just the one closest to January Wabash Park, right across the street, that neighborhood right across the street from there, that North Clay.
January
across the street. It's the neighborhood right across the street from the park.
Okay, so you're talking about going down Robert and then the North Clay that would be a right-hand turn.
Correct.
Okay, so it's the North Clay between Robert and Thurman?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right, so that totally agree. And then I'm gonna back up just a little bit on the retaining wall. Why are we not asking the Weiss Group to pay for that? Because they're the ones that originally did it, and they're the ones that, you know, they did shoddy work.
Right, and that is a conversation that myself and the previous city manager had. That's something that we do, well, I do plan on getting with Apollo about and having a conversation.
Okay, because I mean, I would like to see, and you know, as a council, I would like the ladies on council to get an update on that, because that's about $50,000 worth of them chipping in to fixing this if we're able to get them on the hook for it.
I agree. Unfortunately, I was not working for the city at the time, so I had to kind of do some research and really dig and find some paperwork on, you know, what exactly they designed.
Right.
So now I have some evidence to kind of move forward with.
Okay, well, I realize we got to get the work done, because if the longer we let it sit, the more expensive it's going to get. But I'm just saying, I appreciate what you're going through, but I would also appreciate that we be bulldogs. We leave a lot of money on the table in this city with our inspections and not giving citations and so forth. So I don't want to leave money on the table anymore, especially when it's not ours. You know, we shouldn't have to be paying for it.
Yes, ma'am. I agree.
Thank you.
No problem.
You're welcome. A motion and a second for approval. Resolution number 2022-02.
So moved. Linda Lipka, Ward 1.
Burrows, second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Griffin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Councilwoman Lipka.
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah.
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-02 passes. At this time, the next item on the agenda, do we have any unfinished business? Councilwoman Lipka, you have your hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put it down.
Okay, any unfinished business? If not, we move to the next item on the agenda, new business.
I'm putting my hand back up.
Okay, Councilwoman Lipka, Councilwoman Griffin, and Councilwoman Borough.
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we remove the rule that requires our citizens to submit their comments for public comments the day before. I would like to make a motion that we remove that and that we replace it with the fact that we allow our citizens to arrive at the beginning of the meeting and maybe set a certain amount of time that they can sign in through the chat. And we allow our public comments to have a more open forum so that our citizens can truly be heard. I think it's the best way for us to replicate how we handled public comments when we were meeting in person. And I think, I don't even remember the reasoning we changed it, but I think now that we've been doing Zoom calls for so long, we're in 2 years, probably going into 3. I think it's time for us to figure out a better way for our citizens to be heard at these community meetings, at these council meetings. So I make a motion that we remove the rule that requires our citizens to submit their comments the day prior to a council meeting by 5 p.m. and replace it with allowing them to arrive at the Zoom meeting and within a certain amount of time, the first 10 minutes, first 5 minutes, they sign in through the chat for public comments.
Is there a second?
I have a point of concern.
When we get, if we get a second, then I can open for questions.
I'll second Heather Robinette.
Are there any questions?
I have a question for Councilwoman Lipka.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were mentioning the Zoom, and my question was this. It was really a point of clarification in regards to how we used to do it. I remember this was one of our original suggestions when we first went into Zoom. When we were in City Hall, that paper would basically stay on the podium until session started, until we were in session. And so my point of clarity was literally on the amount of minutes that I am in agreement that, you know, that shouldn't be a requirement unless that is a need for Octavia to be able to record. But if we're actually putting the names and the information in the chat, that can easily be recorded. My clarity was on the time frame that it allowed to stay up there. If we're doing it similar to how we were when we were actually in council chambers, once session started, then the list was pulled and we went from there.
So to answer you, Councilwoman Griffin, I think that's something we have to create. I mean, I think this is a new time. This is a new situation that, you know, we've never been in as a city. So it's something that we create and create an opportunity for our citizens. My suggestion would be that maybe we have, you know, when we sign in, for instance, this evening, I signed in 5 minutes prior to the start of the meeting, and I sat there with the mayor waiting for people to arrive. So maybe we allow, we open up the Zoom 5 to 10 minutes prior to the meeting, and we allow people to come in and sign into the chat, just like they're arriving at a council meeting in chambers. That would be one suggestion. I'm not saying it's the best one, but that would be a suggestion. The other suggestion, as I was making the motion that I made, is that maybe we set it the first 5 minutes or the first 10 minutes. And maybe we even move public comments to a different position in the agenda so that we do have ample time for people to sign in. But this is something we create. But my motion is simply right now, my motion is that we remove the rule and we allow people to sign in through the chat to be heard during public comments.
Okay.
And I hope that answers your question, does it?
Yes, ma'am.
Octavia, would that work for you? What would be a better system for
Yeah,
you to work with?
It's at the council's pleasure. It's whatever the council wants to see. I can't, you know, I don't know that signing in, first of all, the meetings are always opened up a minimum of 15 minutes prior to. You know, I don't typically don't have people signed in, not even the council, until right at 7. You know, so, you know, it's really at the council's pleasure, whatever it is you want to see.
Well, Ms. Pittman, if we were able to get the information out through social media, through our website, through our social media pages as a city, that the meetings are open 15 minutes ahead of time and you're welcome to sign in and put your name on the chat for public comments, that would help, correct?
Again, it's, you know, I mean, I could see that working, but then I could also see, you know, some disadvantages to that as well. So again, it's whatever you all want to see. I will suggest though, that if we're removing that rule today, that we do have identified what it's going to look like, because what'll happen is the next meeting will come and then there'll be confusion about what it is that we're going to see.
May I make a suggestion right here, Octavia?
Yes.
That a conversation needs to be had how to work this out. We probably don't need a full-fledged SOP, but we do need some conversation with the council and with Octavia as to what this would look like. I don't think this is something that we should implement tonight. I think it's a wonderful idea to give the citizens an opportunity to speak and verbally. I like the idea totally. The situation with Octavia saying is to the pleasure of the council. Thank you for that, Octavia. But I do think we need further communication before we set something in stone tonight.
I agree.
So let me ask you this, in the thought process of creating something new, and you want some more conversation, you know, Tony, you and we've tried to nail things down like this before. When exactly would we be having the conversation? And then would we do it through email? Would we do it through a special meeting? Would we do it through, you know, how are we going to create this? Because I understand what you're saying and I have no problem with that, but I do want to see our citizens be able to, by the next council meeting, be able to start having their public comments.
Then what I've got coming up with my hand up is a working session that would include just what you're talking about.
Okay.
Attorney Paulo.
I was just gonna say that that's an open session topic, so probably email is not the best way to do it. It's probably, you know.
Okay.
You can do it.
And if not by the next meeting, how about by the first meeting in February? You know.
I agree with you, and that's what we're going to talk about when I bring up the next question when I'm up to speak.
So,
Councilwoman.
with that being said, we're going to have a work session to discuss this. I will remove my motion from the floor and I will reintroduce it once we have a clarification of the SOP on how we're going to do this.
Sounds good to me. That's perfect.
Okay. So ordered. Councilwoman Lipka removed her motion from the floor.
But it's coming back.
Okay. Councilwoman Griffin, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring it to council and mayor's attention. Part 2 of the ERAP funds were expected to be released at the beginning of the year. As I was in the process of trying to address the mortgage assistance funds that are at the state level, I found that those Part 2 funds are not expected to be released till March. And so what we have is a bunch of people who were eligible to be able to receive those funds who are not going to be able to receive them until months later. And it's possible that they may have evictions. So I am just being me myself, bringing it to the council's attention. And I'm asking if we'll stand with those families who are going through COVID times, like who are going through rough times and who need assistance. And I'm asking if we will ask for a stay on evictions, at least until March, until those funds can be released. Because again, and I'm specifically talking about residents who have applied and are eligible to receive those funds, but are not able to receive them due to the fact that they haven't been let go to us yet.
I have a question to that. And the question is, do you know that a stay is permissible? Or is that something that you're suggesting?
I'm asking if we would, as a council, would be willing to put forth the ask. We can't grant that, but we can put forth an ask to someone who can.
Okay, so that's the clarification that I'm looking for. So what you're asking is, you're asking for a ask from the council.
Correct.
Mayor Jones, do you think that that should be happening here right now for the council to be asked this question, if we would stand for an ask, or is that something that we should be talking about on a different setting besides right here?
I think we should discuss this at a different setting. That's something we could bring up in our work session, but not at this time. Because when you ask for something like that, there's a lot of other entities that are involved. And coming from the city, we have to be careful for the things that we are asking these homeowners, landlords, or whomever to do, okay? Attorney Carey, would you like to weigh in?
So I agree that there are other entities that are affected, so you need more of a comprehensive understanding of how that particular change would affect everyone else. So I mean, essentially, I agree with you saying.
Okay.
Because Mayor, we could even entertain an accrual situation, and that takes another conversation.
It does.
Okay, so I would consider that and some other things. So I think that that has not been thought of yet. But if we all came together, I think there's a multitude of things that could be done that could keep those that are affected in their homes. And right now, off the top, I am thinking of some monies that are available that would stop that. So let's bring that to Mayor Jones, where we would be talking about it under a different umbrella.
Correct.
So we're going to add that to the agenda of the work session.
Not yet. That has not come up yet. So this is what you're asking is a whole different situation, and it does not come up with this work session. That has to do with money. It has to do with budgeting. It has to do with accruals. That's what you're asking for is a whole different program.
So are we saying that we want a second work session?
I would think so. That would be up to the mayor how she wants to present this to the council.
Okay, I would confer and talk with our attorney and let everyone know when it's a good time to bring this up, because it's going to require a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Okay.
Okay.
Would you give me enough leeway to consult with the attorney first and get back to the council?
Most certainly.
Okay. Councilwoman Lipka.
I thought Tony had her hand up.
I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I put my hand back up after Tony, so
Okay.
I'm.
All right, Councilwoman Burrow.
I'd like to have a working session for an SOP. We already have the ordinance set up. We already have the SOP. We broke down, we even have the information, Ella, that was sent out to all the council folks that but it broke down when Bloom departed. We need to get back to that because some of the things that we're discussing here tonight and have been discussing, I think this is a good time. It's a dawning of a new day. We got a new year. We have a lot of new things, entities in play. We need a working session for the council to become part of, as one. And some of the things that we're discussing, just like what Linda wants to say, for the citizens to be able to speak, I think that that would come in that working session. And we can add to the working session as we go along, but the piece about the money and all of those entities and bringing in, we're going to have to bring in some conversation about the stimulus money for what Fran is talking about. So we wouldn't want to do that in open session. That's something you're going to have to talk to Apollo about. But for this session that I'm talking about is something that we had already had in place that we were going to do. We didn't get it done. So we're starting fresh. And I think that this will help us along as becoming what the citizens and what we as council people need is an SOP for the council. And that's an open session.
Okay, it seems like we do need to have an open session and a work session, which is open session. And one of the items not only will be the new way in which we interact with the citizens to speak at the council meeting, but the second item can be the SOP.
Yes. And that would, I'm not, I don't want to blindside Eric because that's going to take a lot for Eric because his staff is who actually do the SOP. We bring it to them, but they do the work. So I want to let Eric know that that's something that Ellie, you and he might want to talk about of how we came to this point. And I think it was, excuse me, it was Apollo who actually wrote that up and Octavia who sent us the first part. And we all have that, but if we want Octavia to resend it to us, that's our starting point. And Ellie, if you and I want to get together and talk on that we can make that happen too.
Okay. I was just gonna say that, can we get another copy of that? Because I'm sure there's been some things we'd like to add to it from, from the time we actually looked at it.
Most definitely. And that's why I'm suggesting that Ella and I get together first and we will discuss on what we can bring, because it's going to be a rake and shovel. Rake in what we need, shovel out what we don't.
Okay, Councilwoman Burrow, I will send you an email tomorrow with some possible dates and we could go from there. Would that work for you?
Perfect.
Okay. Councilwoman Lipka, you still have your hand up.
I do. I had one more thing I forgot. So Councilwoman Burrow, are you done? Because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when Ella and I get together, then we might add some other things with the citizens becoming more empowered at the podium. So we'll talk about that later.
Okay. So it was a conversation this weekend, and it was a conversation about the Wall of Fame that's there in front of the firehouse, between the firehouse and the police station. And there's two people that I would like. I'm not making a motion. I'm simply saying I would like to start the process. I don't really know what is involved in the process, but I would like to start the process to include two people in the Wall of Fame. One is Tyrone Woodley, who is a graduate from McCall and a UFC fighter. He's very, very well known. He's awesome young man. He's just really, really awesome. And he's valid. He's pertinent. He's the thing right now. And he's a Ferguson resident. Or a Ferguson citizen. So I'd like to suggest that we get him on the Wall of Fame. And then also I would like to suggest that we get Henry Miller. He has a middle name that I'm going to try to pronounce, but Centoriu. He is a world-class sumo wrestler that graduated from McCall in 1987. And he's been in movies. He was actually in a couple of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He's ranked. He lives in China now, but he was born and raised in Ferguson. His parents are still here. They still live in Ferguson. Toshiko and Jim Miller. And so these are two residents, and I would love the fact that we could include them, because it's just also something that's just so awesome to have such a diverse wall of fame. I mean, these two men represent diversity in our community. And so I think it's something we need to consider. So I would like to put it in new business, that we start the process of how do we get them included? And this is something I'd like to see.
Okay. Councilwoman Burrow, you still have your hand up?
I'm so sorry about that. I'll take it down.
Okay. Councilwoman Lipka, that's a good idea. That's something we can start a conversation on when we go to our open session. Okay, work session. Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Our next item on the agenda is miscellaneous, starting with Councilwoman Noah.
Okay, again, happy new prosperous new year, everyone. Just right quick, I want to go back, to the holidays and just thank Pastor Jose plus his volunteers. They wrapped and distributed toys to the Oakmont residents, and Latasha Brown and the Southeast Ferguson Community Association distributed gift boxes and food to residents for Christmas. So thank you all for that. A few residents in Ferguson that I always see, picking up litter and trash and helping to support the Ferguson beautification effort. Mr. Bryant, he lives in Pleasant View. He's a resident. He's always picking up litter on Canfield. And Gay, I think her last name is Ian. I know her as Miss Osborne. She worked at the school, Zion Lutheran. I remember her from years ago, but she's always on Florissant Road picking up litter. And I just want to say thank them for, their contributions to the community. On the 4th of this year, we were in Pleasant View soliciting help for renters and repairs. And it's free, convenient, and independent mediations with the St. Louis Mediation Projects. The number is 314-833-0226. Email coordinator@stlmediationproject.org or text 314-753-9033. And welcome to the new officers, Newman and Setzler. Thank you for choosing Ferguson. And that's it for me. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Councilwoman Griffin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say Happy New Year's to everyone. I am looking forward to the critical race theory. Let me get it right, Mr. Mueller. The critical race theory, it's here. I don't know the whole title of what he named it, but I am looking forward to the critical race theory discussion coming up on the 26th with Proud. I was looking forward to it when they had it originally. And so I'm so glad that they were able to reschedule, get it back on the books. And I encourage everyone to go to Proud's Facebook page and get that link and watch. Secondly, I wanted to also say congratulations to Councilwoman Phaedra Nelson, who received the CD Banks Award. For those who don't know, it's the highest award any person in the YMCA movement can receive for outstanding professional leadership. So congratulations, Councilwoman Nelson. So very proud of you. And lastly, but definitely not least, I thoroughly enjoyed being able to not only view, but participate in the participatory budgeting process of the Arpa funds. This was dynamic. I like the way that we were able to use the Zoom and then go into subcategories and talk amongst the community and come up with 5 different ideas that would apply under those funds to be able to do something with it that would improve our community. I'm very much so looking forward to how we implement participatory budgeting into our actual budget process. Because I do believe the more we get our residents engaged and active and aware of just the basic functions of our city, the better understanding we'll have of the needs of the community, and they'll have of what it is that we do here at City Hall and what our job entails. So I just wanted to thank everybody who did participate and encourage anyone who hasn't to come out to watch tomorrow and to participate tomorrow, so that you can have your voices heard. This is a way that we get things budgeted, and we can do it by using your voices where you live in your community, where you lay your head down and representing your area. So thank you again. And that's all I have for now.
Thank you, Councilwoman Griffin. Councilwoman Borough.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank all of those on the front line, such as the firefighters and police officers. This COVID is no joke. I'm working it every day with clients, and even though the fallout is not like the COVID that I had, it is still affecting so many more people. There's still so many of us that are not vaccinated, and the senior people, it is really wreaking havoc because they cannot go to the nursing homes now for rehab, because if they have COVID, they have to be in the isolation for so long. So I'm just saying to everybody, be vigilant, be vigilant. Protect yourself so you can protect your loved ones. It sounds like, oh, nobody's dying from it, but the effects of it. And those people that are senior citizens, if you care anything about a grandmother or an old aunt like me, or somebody that has passed the prime, be vigilant. I don't want to get into anything personal, but I will tell you, this is no simple thing. It's wreaking havoc. I want to thank Chief for giving out all the answers that he gave today. I do want to circle back, Chief, when you have time, and this is for Eric as well. We had some questions that we didn't get answered, and you got the answer from the folks that were able to tell you what was necessary with the CRB coming from the fatal shooting, the incident that we had. I would like for you to give that information to the council as soon as possible that you have. We asked the question, and I'd like to get, when you get an answer, I want an answer. And so even though I have the answer, I don't think it's my place to give the answer when so many of us ask the question. So not trying to reprimand you, but when you have an answer that we've asked a question to, it is professional to give us the answer. I also want to let you know that we will, from the CRB, we will be sending a letter to Judge Prairie to the consent hearing to show accomplishments and to show some areas where there's better collaboration is needed with the Ferguson Police Department. We need some communication. We need to be able to, we had a lot of emails flying that was unnecessary, in my opinion, because we had answers and people were injecting information that was not correct. It causes confusion. We have these boards and commissions and we don't take them lightly. We have liaisons. You got a question and you're a council person, you know who the liaison is, let's talk. A lot of confusion came up, a lot of situations that did not have to be if we would have just had some communication going. I'm talking to the council, I'm talking to Mccall, I'm talking to Eric. And I'm sending another letter to the judge. She's used to them by now, and so is the CRB. Another thing is that the CRB will be doing another town hall, and I'm going to say mid-March for right now, to present 3 of the sessions that we are taking with the NACO annual conference. And then we're going to come back in mid-May to do our annual report. So that's my report from the CRB. And we will be talking about incident reporting. The other thing I want to talk about, we do have a seat on the CRB that is available. I have been talking to several people that are interested, And that's another conversation Ella will be having with those folks that are interested in being on the CRB. So that's a good thing. We have a seat available now on the library, and the library is doing well. I want you to know that I have checked out the telescope. I thought I was telescope savvy. Boy, they got a telescope over there at the library. You put that thing up and you see a whole lot of things that we didn't know was there. So I'm going to encourage everybody. You get to check it out for 7 days. It's a serious process about having it. So, but I would encourage any of you, not just for kids. I mean, I'm telling you, I learned a lot of things, and I thought I was the guru on telescopes. We did change some of the time now with the COVID running so high. We are looking at 15 minutes tops for it to be inside the lobby, inside the building. So that has changed. The kids was an all-time favorite for the kids, and I started taking 2 at a time. I'm going to be using some of those kits at the Jade Laundromat. I'm going to be doing some reading for the kids at Jade Laundromat. So we're setting up everything that we're going to need there. So some of the kits that I'll be using will be coming straight from the laundromat. So for that, I think that's all I have to offer for tonight. I do want to thank, I just want to give a shout out to Tony Dupree. I have admired her for years. I mean, she has done a stand-up job. And I understand that for whatever reason, she's turned in her resignation. That's going to be a hard shoe to fill. She has been perfect in my eyesight. And I just want to give her all the kudos for what she's done for this city while she held that seat. And I thank her for what she's done. And I appreciate her. Thank you to the council for rocking steady. We're going to get there. I want to give a shout out to our illustrious Octavia Pittman, who is the glue to what we do on the council. So thank you, Octavia, for what all you've done and what you are constantly doing, keeping us on the straight and narrow. Thank you, council, for being there. There are a lot of people in need. I am going to be doing some work with some of the folks that are in need and don't know how to get what they need. And that is especially with evictions and with proper food, not just going to pick up a basket of something that you don't want and you end up putting it in the trash. But we're going to be looking into doing something the way we used to do it. So let's look out to see what we're going to be doing from the council seat. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Burrow. Councilwoman Griffin, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was clapping. That was a clapping hand.
Okay,
that was for Octavia and also for the other.
Okay.
Tony Dupree.
Yes, Miss Tony. I'm so used to calling you Miss Tony. I was going to call her Miss Tony as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Great. Councilwoman Robinette.
I'll try to make this quick so we can move along here. I want to wish everybody a happy new year. I want to thank all the citizens who joined and provided comments regarding certainly the crash last night, but in general, I'm hearing it. We all hear it, and we probably all talk about it too. This is probably the number one thing that people bring up and talk to other neighbors about is we really need to enforce our traffic laws. We need to make sure that the speeding is under control and whatever measures we can use to thwart some of that. I like the idea of opening up the traffic commission for people to come in and provide suggestions. So again, thank you to all the residents that came out and provided comments. And I look forward to more people being able to provide public comments. However, we work that out. That has been sorely missed from a large population of our residents over the past almost 2 years now. So look forward to however that materializes to hear from folks. I want to welcome the new officers. Congratulations, and thank you for picking Ferguson. And other than that, I have nothing else. Everybody's one word of caution, please check on your neighbors, especially when it's so cold. There are neighbors who are proud and don't want to be bothered. Please check on them anyway. We had an incident close to home that it was, don't think you're being nosy, you're being neighborly. So just make sure you're watching out for folks around you, especially those who aren't, really the ones who call out for help. So especially during these cold times, make sure everybody's accounted for and staying warm and healthy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman Robinette. Councilwoman Libka.
Hey there. Okay, so a couple of things. I'd like to reiterate the welcome to the new officers. As the other councilwomen have said, thank you for choosing Ferguson. I'd also like to remind people that Sunday was National Law Enforcement Day, so I want to thank all of our officers for their dedicated service. And I also want to reiterate what I said earlier, that a big thank you, and I say a prayer every night for all of those that are on the front line of this COVID, from our firefighters and police to the people working the testing sites and the vaccination sites and all of our medicals. So big thank you. Also want to wish everybody a happy new year. It's kind of touching on what Councilwoman Burrow said about the telescope. As long as nobody's waving back to you while you're looking through the telescope, I think we're good. One thing I do want to say, the ARPA meetings have been, I got to go to one. I missed two of them, unfortunately, because we had COVID in my house. But I did get to go to one. It was awesome. And there are a lot of great ideas. And I worked with some people that I have never worked with before. So it was really a good experience. Shirley Emerson and Erica Brooks. So good experience. So I am the council rep for FNIP, FSBD, and Traffic Commission. And I will say that all three of these organizations, all three of these boards and commissions are very robust right now. They all three have a lot to accomplish, and they have lofty goals in front of them. So I'm very pleased to be involved with them. When it comes to the Traffic Commission, though, and traffic in general, I really will reiterate my original idea. I want to see traveling speed zones. I want us to use our digital board that we can move around. I want us to create speed check zones. I think it's imperative, and I think it's something we can do immediately. So I'm really strongly requesting that we look into that. And I do know that the city manager said that he had spoke with Mccall Bartlett about my idea and a way to get it going, but I just want to see it moving forward. I want to see it out there, and our citizens see it out there, and we actually see some action and stop talking about it all the time and actually do it. Last night's accident, a neighbor who lives there had their Ring camera videotape it, and they sent it to me, and I saw the accident. It will stop you in your tracks. And unfortunately it did for the people involved. And I will tell you that the first thing that came to my mind is, oh my God, somebody gets the phone call I've got. People, we have to remember that this is not just, hey, there's a bunch of speeders. This is somebody's phone call that changes their life for the rest of their life. Their loved one is gone, dead, wiped off the planet. And so we have got to figure out a way to work together, and we have to work with our police instead of yelling at them all the time. We do have the right to demand safe community. They know that. But I'm not letting anybody off the hook, but I'm saying we all have to work together. And I don't know. I think we just keep working at it. We keep coming up with ideas. Pierce Nykirk put in a post out there today that had some great ideas. Louis Armand's put out great ideas. Nick Kassoff's put out great ideas. There's so many citizens that are putting out great ideas. I'm writing them all down, and I thank you. That's what we need. We need constant brainstorming. And when we put these ideas together and we take them to the police department, and we take them to the public works, and we take them to the city manager, and we let them look at them, and we create something that this community can be very proud of. But we've got to do something sooner than later. That's why I want to start with the traveling speed zones. But that being said, I will tell you honestly, I have talked to so many people today who said they avoid that intersection of Hereford and Elizabeth and Chambers purposely. And they take the long way so they don't have to go through that intersection anymore. I go through that intersection, and every single time I look down to see if my seatbelt's on. I look both ways when the light turns green, and I say a prayer. And I think, I wonder if there's anybody I forgot to tell I love today, because I may not make it through this intersection. So that being said, Happy New Year. I hope I make it through the intersection. And if I don't, it was nice knowing y'all.
I'm speechless on that one.
That's the reality. I'm sorry. Isn't that bad?
Councilwoman Lipka, thank you. Councilwoman Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor. My apologies to everyone. I'm not feeling the best, and I'm trying to get over the cold really bad here. But I just had a couple of things. I wanted to congratulate our new officers, Seltzer and Newman, and I also wanted to give a shout out to Chief Mccall for utilizing our police academy at HBCU, and I hope you can continue to get more officers for our community from Lincoln University, from the police academy there that they have. And I know that they're looking at expanding that academy as well to Harris Stowe. So hopefully we'll be able to get more officers in our community. That will be a great opportunity for folks that's from our community, of course. And I wanted to also thank all the residents for chiming in this evening about the accident on Chambers. And you know, I just wanted to say a couple of things about the speeding, because although that was terrible what happened on Chambers, but there is speeding all over Ferguson, not just Chambers. I hate to say that, but there is speeding all over, and it's getting more ridiculous every day. Every day. I mean, Hudson is another street that they ridiculously speed on all the time, as well as West Florissant, and all the way down Elizabeth to Purcell. So, I mean, it's ridiculous all over our city, the speeding is. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then I also wanted to put out there that Home Depot awarded the Emerson Family YMCA Healthy Schools, Healthy Communities $14,000 for PPE totes for 177 homes over in the Ferguson Woods community. And so we'll be, with that, they have provided smoke detectors and CO2 detectors that our Ferguson Fire Department will be able to install in some of those homes when that's available for us safely to do that. But we're doing an MLK Day of Service on January 17th over in the Ferguson Woods community, where we'll be giving out those PPE totes with the CO2 detectors as well as the smoke detectors. That's all I have.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nelson. Thank you.
Congrats on your award.
That's in our award. Okay. City Manager Eric, do you have anything you would like to share?
The only thing I have is that just as a reminder to the community, once again, we have our final public input session for the American Rescue Plan Act dollars tomorrow night at 6 p.m. on Zoom. You can find the link to that on movingfergusonforward.com. We'd love to have you. These meetings have been really important to us, and we hope that you take the time to participate. And with that, I'll just say Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you, City Manager. Our esteemed City Clerk, Clerk Pittman.
I actually do not have a report, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Carey.
I have nothing, man. Thank you so much. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. Okay. First, I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone again. And I'm just excited about the new police officers that are coming aboard to our city. So I just appreciate them selecting Ferguson to work in. I would like to say congratulations to Deborah Carter on her new appointment with Red Circle. Congratulations, Deborah. We're looking forward to you doing a great job for the Red Circle. In addition to that, congratulations to Andrea Hoosman. She will be recognized as the 2022 Drum Major Award for Christian Hospital. She is one of our business owners on South Florissant Road. In addition to that, I would like to say thank you to Christopher of Starbucks, who stayed late Christmas Eve, and he prepared coffee and some other items for our police department. So I really appreciate Starbucks doing that. Don't forget, January the 20th is the status hearing, and it is Zoom and YouTube. All the information is on the website. Just like to share with you, on January the 20th at 9:30 a.m., Castle Community Action Agency of St. Louis County, George Robnett is the Director of Housing, and he will be speaking at the Senior Citizens Commission, and he will be talking about the weatherization program with Castle. And we're asking that all seniors please be on the call, because he will be making a great announcement for the city of Ferguson. I participated along with several of the community people like Lorraine Jackson from Ward 1, Trayvon Walker from Ward 2, Fran Griffin from Ward 3. They were in a video for MoDOT for their Slow Down campaign. And we received at least 26 yard signs from MoDOT to put around the city. And in talking with Eric and with Bailey, it was a great idea to have the neighborhood leaders to come to City Hall, pick up their signs so we could place them around the city. And eventually, we're still working on a meeting with them. So as you drive along, we hope that you will see the signs popping up, Slow Down for MoDOT. One thing MoDOT asks that we don't put them in a right of way. They have to go in your yard or either on the easement in front of your property. Also, congratulations, Phaedra, for receiving the CD Banks Award. We appreciate all the work that you do for the city working with the Y. There are a lot of recognition programs out here from MML in the state of Missouri. And our Parks Department, our Fire Department, and the Police Department did a phenomenal job, an outstanding job for Santa and Sirens. That, I mean, so many seniors called and say that they were really excited to see the Santa on a sleigh, the fire department, the police department, Parks and Recreation. So one thing I would like for us to do, and there are a couple of programs out there to make recommendations, that we start recognizing our police department, our fire department, and our parks department for the phenomenal work they're doing during COVID. And so I'm just excited for what they've been doing and really working on getting them the recognition that they deserve for how they take care of the city of Ferguson. So on the next note, that's all I have. So at this time,
Mayor, can I ask you a quick question on your MoDOT signs? How many did you say you had? Do you want to give them out by ward, or what are you doing?
the MoDOT sign, they gave us 26 signs. We were able to get as many as possible. They are at City Hall. I turned them in to Bailey, who is over the neighborhood leaders. And each neighborhood leader will get in touch with Bailey to pick up a sign so we can strategically place them around the city. So every neighborhood will have at least a slow down sign.
Did you
Okay?
want city council members to put any out? Or do you want to leave that for neighborhood association?
Neighborhood association, we're trying to get them to start moving again, interacting again. And
Okay.
so that's why they have the responsibility of working with Bailey to get the signs out. Okay. Eric? You have
Yeah, I
your
just
hand-
wanted to add, I spoke with Bailey about the signs this week, and by Monday morning, we only had like 5 or 6 signs left, so most of them had been picked up, and the remaining ones were spoken for. They just haven't come by and picked them up yet.
Okay, great. And it gives the neighborhood leaders an opportunity to interact with Bailey. So that was one of the keys. And then hopefully in talking with Eric, we will have a meeting with the neighborhood leaders. My voice is already gone. My voice is already gone. Taking medicine for it, it will get better. Oh, yes, Councilwoman Burrow.
On the working session, neighborhood associations is going to be one of the main things that we talk about. So I want to let folks know that now, because we've talked about that before, and we talked about having meetings with them. But as a councilwoman, I didn't know anything about Eric doing anything with the neighborhood association. So that's something that we need to put in that working session. We don't have a collaboration and communication about what's going on with that. So I just want to make sure we get that in, Eric. So if you could put that on your to-do list, that we'll talk about that in the working session. Thank you so much, Ellen.
No problem, no problem. At this time, I would entertain a motion and a second to adjourn.
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Quita Noah, second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Have a great night the rest of the night. Thank you.
Apollo, we don't have